Mixer is a great way for women to understand and embrace the journey of menopause, understanding our right to be informed about what is happening during this magnificent feminine evolution. Look, learn, and know these 5 rights as we get into tonight's episode of the Menopause Mixer. And then, if you haven't already, join us on Facebook in the Black Women in Menopause support group.
Hey, ladies, I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. I'm back screen in the green room trying to get us live on Facebook, but we are live on YouTube right now. So hopefully, if you guys, I'm going to drop the link on Facebook. So it's bit.ly Menno Mixer July. So I have with me this evening Sandra Wyckoff and Dr. Mia Knight. So both of them are hailing from Texas. And right before the show, Dr. Mia said, yeah, we're here hailing with the heat. So talking about fashion in a different fashion, right?
Absolutely. We're flashing with the heat. That's really a case for someone just really being so uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, so disrespectful sometimes. It truly is. But we're going to talk all about it for sure, right? Somebody has to have the conversation. So we're going to be live actually on YouTube. So if you guys would give me just 1 second, I am opening up my YouTube link just to make sure that we are live there, because for some reason I gave the permission on YouTube, and with all these various rules, I don't see it. So yes, we are live. Yes. Yep. We're here live on YouTube. So the link that I gave you all for bit.ly, and I'm going to put it in the chat, Menno Mixer July. That is where we will be live. So if you want to share that on your page.
Okay.
For sure. Just give me 1 second. And I'm going to add that into the group chat real quick. And then you can copy and paste that. Menno Mixer July. There you go. Okay. Did it go into the stream? I'll put it in the private chat too, so that you all have it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then you can grab it and put it onto your page so that the amazing people that are here tonight. So sidebar for that, it's always that technical stuff that we have to take care of.
Yes.
All right, but we are live. I'm able to see us and follow the chat on Facebook. On YouTube. So we're live. I have that over here on my other device. All right. So without further delay, I said we have Sandra Wyckoff and Dr. Mia Knight with us again, as I said, hailing from Texas. And I want us to jump right into this because it is such an important topic. We talk about how menopause is the change, right? If I say the change, everybody somehow knows exactly what that means. So I want to give you both an opportunity to say who you are, what it is that you do, and then we're going to jump right into having the it conversation about the change. And so I'll start with you, Sandra. Tell us a little bit about you, your passion, who you are, and then, of course, I already gave it away that you're from Texas.
Okay, so my name is Sandra Wyckoff, and I consider myself a community liaison because my passion is working with women and inspiring women. So what I have found that works for me is just being transparent about my own different journeys that I have been going through since my 40s. It started with my 40s and it has just transitioned over to my 50s. So I've just been able to inspire women and encourage them to embrace their age and just their journey. And so this menopause journey is just another addition to all the other journeys that I've been through that I found it necessary to have a conversation about, because I'm like, am I the only one that is having all this stuff, or what is going on? So I definitely wanted to inspire women to let's have some conversation about it.
Absolutely. And I think that's truly how I ended up having this added to my long list of empowerment things around health and wellness, because menopause was not one of them, but it was that feeling of, am I alone? I can't be the only one going through this. So I feel you
Yes.
on that part of it. And like you said, I love how you said that you just became a community liaison just based on your truth and your experience. So Dr. Mia, tell us a little bit about yourself, your passion, what you do, and then how you kind of got in this arena of wanting to talk about menopause.
Well, I want to thank you and Sandra first for hosting this and inviting us to be part of it, because it's such an important conversation. I'm a co-pastor and I'm an executive director for a women's empowerment organization titled Metamorphosis. And so for the last 20 years, my goal has really been to empower women, to help them find their purpose, their passion, and to make the changes in life that are necessary. And I often say that some of those changes are some that we embrace with grace, and then others we're fighting so
We need a
hard.
little more courage.
And
Yes.
we need a lot
We need
of
a village
courage
to some of them, right?
we absolutely do. Well, something Sandra didn't mention was that in our 40s, so we're similar age, I'm a little older than her, but in our 40s, she used to host an event and an organization magazine, a whole movement called 40s Rock. And for
Yes.
me, turning 40 was really challenging. I waited until I was 42 to really embrace that season of life. It took me 2 years to get with it, right? And so when I turned 50, it was kind of like, okay, what do I do now? And it was during that time that my body started changing. My eyes were changing, and they really have shifted during COVID with all the computer use. But it was so many things that shifted and changed, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, sociologically, lots of changes. And so my goal for women really is to help them embrace the changes, even the changes that are thrust upon them, the ones that they don't readily want to embrace. But how do we then make adaptations? How do we shift so that we make the best of the purpose that God has called us to do and to live in this time or season of our life?
Amen.
But also, how are we our best selves? So how do we present
Exactly.
our best selves at all times? So that's why I'm here. I'm here to share it because I'm going through it.
Yes, exactly. And I always find that when we're in this season, right, when we're able to share where we are currently and our journey with it is so real, it's so raw, and we also are receiving some support along the way as well. So that's really how it started for me. It's like, I think I'm out here empowering women, by my own right, but at the same time, they're empowering me as well and keeping me, sort of on the pulse about what it is. And again, not feeling alone as we, chart this course of what it is that we're going through, honestly, because to me, it felt like, there wasn't enough information, number one. I had no idea, number two. And so when there's not any information, and when you don't know, it's like, so then what do? You start to feel, hopelessness and powerlessness and all these things that are already, compounding the experience itself. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, somebody's got to have this conversation with me. And I just started a group. I started talking about it, just shifting and really, every woman I met, I'll be like, are you experiencing it? Like, I became the conversation, so I do feel that it's important for us to normalize it. We have got to normalize it in our community, and not make it feel as though it's something to be ashamed of, because I have made it sexy. I've told everybody this is the feminine evolution. This is that part. They're like,
I like that. I know we're attracted to things that are sexy, and knowledge and confidence is sexy. It's super sexy.
Yes.
And when you're sitting there and having flashes in the middle of a board meeting, that's not sexy. And so being able to have, the empowerment comes with being able to make those steps to arm yourself with knowledge and know what you can do so that you can overcome the challenges that we face. And so I love what you're doing. So thank you for sharing.
Yes.
And
thank you so much.
Sandra invited me along because she knew it.
Yes, and it's so funny because Dr. Mia and I was just having this conversation the other day about how when we were growing up, no one had this conversation. I mean, and it's so weird because not our moms, aunts, and I know, and I said, okay, well, maybe it's because they didn't know what they were experiencing themselves. I'm not really sure, but I never really heard the conversation. All I can remember is just seeing my mom fanning. And me laughing, and she would say, I'm really hot, and that's it.
Yep. That was the gist of the conversation. Yeah. And I say that because my mom was a nurse and she still didn't have the conversation with me. So that
Yeah.
kind of lends to the fact that I don't believe she knew what she was going through. I think you just say to yourself, this is the change, almost like,
Mhm.
again, going back to the 6 P's of puberty, period, pregnancy, perimenopause, postpartum. It's like, these are the things that we're supposed to go through. And I don't think anyone ever really embraced it enough to say, this is what's happening. I need to have this conversation. And I don't want my daughter to be fearful of
Mhm.
going into this part of her life thinking that it just is about me melting, like dripping wet, and it's misery, and that you're losing your femininity, or that, it's something that we should be ashamed of. I
Mhm.
don't think she really did not have the knowledge to be able to sit down and have that conversation with me from a healthcare standpoint as a nurse, or from a, maternal aspect as my
Mhm.
mom. So it just never happened. It didn't transition. So when that time came for me, it was very difficult. I really thought that I was going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind because, again, being a female, you're all in control. I usually know what's going on. I'm always, ahead of what should be happening. And I'm thinking I'm doing all these things right. And then suddenly I'm left, powerless, because I had no idea I was
Mm-hmm.
watching this stuff happen to my
Mhm.
body. And it was like, nobody knows what's going on, which leads me to my next
Yeah.
point. And that is that, and I found this statistic very startling, and that is only 10% of a physician, not even 10%, I'm sorry, 4% of a physician's training is spent on menopause
Menopause.
and the reproductive health, unless there's somebody who is specializing in, like OBGYN. But even for them, they spend even less time learning about menopause. So how do you ladies feel about that? Because to me, that makes me think that even in the medical field, we need to have some menopause specialists out there, sort of like doulas, like menopause doulas, or those that are specialized in just that one particular area.
I find it so interesting, and saddening to a degree with
Hmm.
this as well. And I spent a lot of my career, my early career, working in the medical profession, and just really just knowing that women's health, whether it's morbidity, mortality, whatever it is, there's always such a lack of information, and not just lack of information, but there's also a lack of empowerment. And
Yes.
so we talk about even kind of one of the things you were saying around other people not really being able to inform you, whether it's your
Mhm.
parent, an aunt, a mentor, so there are
Mhm.
often women who don't have their mothers when they go through this process of life or change in life, and they don't have anybody that they can talk to, or if they do, then their parents, maybe their mother, can't even articulate what they went through. I told Sandra, my
Right.
mother, I asked her, I said, well, what was your menopause like? And she said, I don't think I had one. Well, I was
Yeah.
like, I know you had one. Yeah, she most definitely
Everybody
had one.
has one. Yes. Yeah.
Everybody, yes. And so, but she couldn't quite articulate what it was like.
Yeah.
So, but when we think about our healthcare professionals, I had this conversation today with one of the women that work in my dermatology office. The truth is that it's up to you. This is your
Mhm.
body. This is
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
life. This is what you deal with, and you become your number one advocate. And if there's no one else advocating for you, you have to be that advocate. You have to speak and say something is
Absolutely.
not right. I feel so different. And
Mhm.
so whether you're speaking to your OB-GYN or your dermatologist or your
Mhm.
family healthcare professional, whatever, whoever it is that you're seeing, you have to keep asking the questions. What else can this be? And who
Right.
else should I see? And so that is one of the biggest empowerment steps that any woman can make when you're sitting in front of your doctor and you're asking something and they're like, oh, that's normal, or that's not anything big. What else could it be? And who else should I see? And remember those two questions, because they can lead you to the path of somebody else giving you the help. And then also don't forget that Google can also open up an opportunity to learn. While
Mhm.
there's only 4% of our medical professionals that may be trained in this, there are a lot of women these days that are in positions that are starting to research, and they're
Yeah.
going to conferences, and they're arming and
Mhm.
empowering themselves with this information. My first doctor who was treating me with hormone replacement was my dermatologist. And it
Wow.
was interesting
See?
because I want to
Mhm.
say that when I told my gynecologist about it, she was kind of like, good luck with that. And
See?
and I'm like, what do you mean good luck with that? So but for her, it wasn't on her radar at that
Right.
time. And now she's treating for it, but it wasn't at that time on her radar to treat anybody for it. So it's kind of like good luck with that. But my dermatologist had been going to conferences. She was a
Right.
specialist in this area. She had armed
Hmm.
herself with information, and probably about 50% of her patient population were over 50,
See?
perimenopausal,
Right.
premenopausal, and menopausal.
Yep.
And she was treating them. She was treating almost everybody for it, and with a very, very educated background for how
Right.
to treat them. So,
Yep, because
so,
she
so
took
just
the
remember, it's up
opportunity
to
to,
you.
yeah, expand her
Yeah.
knowledge in that area where she saw a need. And that's sort of like what happened to me, being able
Yeah.
to understand that I sort of immersed myself in that part of the health spectrum, because menopause, that wasn't something that I initially had interest in. It only happened by my experience. And then I thought, oh, I better get knowledgeable about this so that I can be educated the same as your dermatologist, so that I can be educated on how to appropriately, approach it, empower, and answer, and or advocate, and or resource out as it related to menopause, because there's definitely a
Excellent.
need.
Well, it goes even
Yeah.
deeper than that for me,
Mhm.
because I'm sure there are other women out there maybe that could relate to how I felt, because I felt like I was by myself. But for the longest, I didn't even know what it was that I was going through. I was
Yeah.
very familiar with my body, but I didn't connect the two.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, man, how did I not know this was what was going on? But it was somewhat like I was in denial. I would wake up and I'd say, oh, I have too many pajamas on. Oh, it's too much
Mhm.
cover. Oh, it's too this. It took me a while to connect the dots. And
Yeah.
so because of that, I felt that I really wanted to tell my story and be transparent, because I know that there are other women out there probably that are just not connecting the dots,
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that was one of the things that really inspired me to really open up about it.
That's good, because you're absolutely right. When I look at the feed, oftentimes in the Black Women in Menopause support group, which I want to say welcome to some of the viewers that are on from the group, and hopefully you guys, I'm going to end up sharing this in the group later. But there's often a thread that starts where some women are doing exactly that, Sandra. They are
Mhm.
now connecting the dots because we
Yes.
started this community,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
we're having conversations like this, and they're putting it together to say, oh, I don't have to say, yeah, I was sleeping in pajama. Okay, no. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, my
Mhm.
brain fog. Oh, so they're like, doing this. They're like connecting the dots,
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're putting these little instances together to now know this is what it could be, that I could be in perimenopause.
And
Whereas
that's
before,
what's so
Mhm.
wonderful too about the event that we're having, is because we also have Dr. Letitia Plummer that brings a
Mhm.
whole nother dynamic to the table, and that's talking about how menopause affects your dental health. And
Yes.
so a lot of us don't
Mhm.
even connect that together.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I feel like will be a really great way for women to get even more knowledge about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Menopause affects every single organ and every single system in your body. So, absolutely, teeth included, right? So,
Yes.
as you know, skin is the
Mhm.
largest organ of the body, and so you do have changes in your skin. You
Mhm.
talked about that, Dr. Mia, with your dermatologist, being one of the first people who
Mhm.
helped you with the HRT. So,
Mhm.
again, as women, it's not like menopause only affects the reproductive system. What goes on in that reproductive system truly affects every single
Yes.
organ and system in our body. And so for some women, that kind of, systematic change can be too much at one time, especially if
Mhm.
they don't understand what's happening and they feel like they have no control. Right. So imagine not only not knowing what's going on, but also feeling like you don't have any control over it. That's
Yes.
difficult.
Yeah, that's the disempowering part of life
Hmm.
changes, right? That's the part that when you're sick or you're ill or things are just normally changing, advancing as we do age, there are some things that we have to really kind of learn to be more aware of and to learn to embrace or to get treated for or go see a specialist or talk to somebody about.
Mhm.
It can be our mental health, can be just the fog that we go through,
Right.
whatever it is. But the empowering part is that we are actually empowered to step up and to do the research for ourselves.
Mhm,
We're
mhm.
actually empowered to reach out to find out what doctors or medical professionals or support groups are actually there. So I applaud you as well, Delana, because even the Facebook group, I hadn't found your Facebook group before, but I have
Yeah,
found some other groups that, were helping me through. I
right.
started, and I hope you'll talk a little bit about this, but I was using essential oils as part of my treatment, to really help my body kind of adjust to the
Mhm.
hormonal changes that were
Mhm.
happening. And I found a lot of comfort and release with that until it got to the point that it wasn't working anymore.
Right.
To take
Yeah,
something a little
yeah,
stronger.
yeah. And that's the
I
other
can, I
thing
can
too.
relate to that one as well too, because I started out. I
Mhm.
mean, I do. I have to do a, what do you call it? I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. I'm just
Right,
saying
yeah.
that the
That's
peppermint
my
oil helped
disclaimer,
me.
yes. So I always thank you for reminding me that. Yes, this is basically general conversation between women. And again, we are not making any diagnostic claims or anything. We are simply sharing information and empowerment. So that's, yeah, thank you for reminding me to do that disclaimer, Sandra. But yes, essential oils, there's different
Mhm.
naturopathic things that we can do. And I always say to women, track your symptoms. Make sure you see what works for you. And again, that can be sort of like a hit and miss. It may work today, may work for a good 30 days, and in the next 2 weeks, it might not
Mhm.
work. That's why being in tune with what you have going on is so very important at this stage of our life, really any stage, but particularly this stage, because again, it's like a moving target, right? What
Yes.
works and what doesn't work now, because our hormone levels are changing so much, right?
Mhm.
As you're going through perimenopause, the further you go along, what worked at month 3 of having no cycle may not work at month 6 of having no cycle, because your estrogen levels are constantly shifting and changing. So it's, again, trying to see what works for you, not getting frustrated by the process. Remember, I said we got to embrace it. It's the feminine evolution. It's just a matter of
Exactly.
making sure that you sort of stay in tune with yourself and with your body and what your body needs, more of, less of, and being able to say, this is what I'm going to give it at this point in time. So that's where
I
the
apologize too.
yeah.
Please accept my apology. My labradoodle is attached
Oh no, we
today.
don't. We ain't even get. Listen, it's real life. Listen, life and be life, and no, you leave your
So,
labradoodle alone.
We all know that they do whatever they want to do when they
Right?
want to do it.
Look, we didn't even
it's
hear
like
that.
the
Let me cut down
hormones.
on
It's
talking.
like the hormones. They just come and go, and then boom, all of a sudden you're like, what happened?
Right.
What happened? Alarm is going off in your body. It's like alarm, alarm.
See, and that's how it
My
happens. See, the
apologies.
labradoodle alarm went off the same way the alarm go off in your body.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm going to shift the latter part of the rest of our show really quickly before we wrap up. I want to talk about, so we talk about the untruths beyond our mama's wisdom, right? So how would you have that conversation now? How we talked about that our moms didn't have the conversation with us. So I would like for us to just think about it with our own daughters. Whether do both of you have daughters or granddaughters?
I don't have a daughter, but I do have
Your
nieces,
nieces, okay.
Mhm.
You have
Mhm.
females in your life. You too,
Yes.
Dr. Mia?
Yeah. I have all sons.
All
And
sons.
so I
Okay.
have daughters in love. Yeah, I
Daughters
have
in
daughters in
love.
love. And then I have a lot of young women that I mentor and talk
Okay.
to. So yeah.
All right. So I want us to kind of think of what just one or two things that we would share with those women, whether, because we all, like you said, have women in our lives, whether they are actual, daughters of ours or, young women that we see as, daughters, or just that they mean a lot to us, or our daughter in love. What is one or two things, Sandra, that you could think of, or how would you even approach the conversation with them about menopause?
Well, that is not a very hard question because it seems like that is the topic of conversation now.
Already.
Exactly. That I have even with younger women, right? Because
Yes.
I went to a baby shower a couple of months ago, and the young ladies that were sitting beside me were in their early 40s, and we just started a conversation because they were
Mhm.
sweating, and we started talking about the menopause thing, and I thought that it was so wonderful that we were able to have a conversation about it. And so I told them, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something to where we can all come together and have this conversation. So they started telling me about the different symptoms that they were having, and how good it was to really just have a conversation with someone else about what was going on. So I think that it's beginning to be, a easier conversation to have.
Yeah.
And we're, as women, we're realizing that it's more common than we know. And I think the great thing about having more conversation about it is because women are able really to just be honest about how they feel, if that's from anxiety, depression, different things. And so they're realizing that it's a lot of other people and women that can relate to it. And so I think that that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. To be able, and I think again, like what you just said, normalize it. You were at a baby shower, right?
Yes.
Having a
Yes.
conversation about menopause. So
Yes.
you've got somebody who's at that reproductive stage in life, and yet you're having a conversation about the other side of it, which is menopause, where you go into the non-reproductive part of your life, right? So you're in one part of the transition all the way to the other side. So I think that's like one of those great things when you think of it in the grand scheme of it. What better place to have it, or to think about it is you have someone who's, getting ready to procreate, right? Reproduce. And yet over here on the opposite side, we've got menopause where there's reproduction sensation, right? So being able to have that conversation in that space, I think is very unique. And we need to be able to say to ourselves, we can have that conversation in anywhere, any place, any space, right? That's appropriate for someone who's willing to listen to us, or that we feel may need the conversation, right? Because sometimes, again, that 40-something-year-old may not realize that that's what she's going through. Because I'm telling you, I had not a clue. It wasn't until I began to put this, the scenarios together and what I was experiencing. And then I had to tell my primary what it was. Like, she was just sort of systematically just thinking, oh, it could be this. Okay, let's go draw your blood for that. Like, it was just whatever the thing was that I was experiencing, the shortness of breath, the lack of energy, like all of this. She's like, oh, okay, we're just going to draw your blood for it. We're going to draw, not thinking that all of this was just simply symptomology of me being in perimenopause. So it was very enlightening. And I actually helped her because that was something she hadn't thought of, and she wasn't doing it in her practice either. So it was good because she too is a woman of color. And so she was very open to it. And so that really helped her to shift her practice around, really her mindset around that. Because then as we're talking, think about it, Dr. Mia, she was like in her head, going through her catalog, probably of that whole last 6 months of women that she saw that came with the same symptomology, that she was likely doing the same thing. So
exactly. It's so interesting how then we also relate to it when we hear, for example, you were saying the symptoms, and I really would like, I hope that before we close out today that you would kind of cover some of the symptoms of it, because they're very, of course, for every person, but there's some things that will really kind of make somebody identify. And I see somebody put in a chat, can you experience perimenopause as early as 40? Yes, you absolutely can. And so, so there's some people that will need to know kind of what are these symptoms. I went through a medical crisis in my early 30s. And I remember calling the doctor's office and specifically asking for a test, because during that time I was working in pharma, and I was standing in front of a chart with all of the symptoms of this disease. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like me. Oh, I'm going through that. And I'm like shocked to say that. And just as soon as I said that, the doctor walks out and she says something to me about it. And she's like, hey, have you ever been tested for X? I was like, yeah, I haven't been tested, I don't think. I called my medical professional, and the nurse, I don't even think it was the nurse. I really think it was just whoever answered the phone. The secretary said, oh, you had a test for this last year and everything was okay. And so my response back was, okay, well then good. We have a baseline for the next test that I'm going to get right away. So please let her know that I need to get this blood work done, and then I'll come see her. Isn't that crazy? Just thinking about this, that I almost accepted a secretary telling me, oh, that's nothing. That couldn't be it because you were okay a year ago. Well, a year ago is a year ago. Things change like that.
A lot can change it within a year's time.
Yeah, a lot can change. And so,
Uh-huh.
I can't get away from what an empowered woman really looks like, because, we each have an opportunity to
Mhm.
live something, to be something, to say something,
Uh-huh.
and to advocate for, if nobody else, that person in the mirror. And
Yes.
so we have to take ownership of what we deal with, what we face, what our challenges
Uh-huh.
are, and speak with a professional about it if something doesn't seem right. We know our bodies, and if something
Uh-huh.
doesn't seem right, ask them. Okay, the worst
Absolutely.
case is going through menopause. It's not a horrible thing, but I tell you what, you can go through it a lot more manageable,
Mhm.
and a lot
Uh-huh.
more comfortable than
Yes.
just dying every time, at midnight, and you wake up, your whole bed, your clothes, your hair,
Right.
everything's
Uh-huh.
soaking wet.
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
was one reason why my hair is curly. I stopped
Yeah.
wearing my hair straight because I was
Yeah.
sweating my hair out, my press out all the time. It was like crazy. But yeah,
Yep.
so we'll go through the symptoms, I hope. But I did want to say, kind of back to one of the questions you asked,
Sure.
and it's along with what Sandra is saying, we have to be intentional in our conversation. I'm extremely transparent. I talk to women about a number of topics, but I think we have to be intentional in those conversations and not be embarrassed to share. And perhaps that was the myth of our parents, that you
Mhm.
didn't tell anybody when you were going through menopause, because they
Uh-huh.
would either think your womanhood has adjusted, you're getting old, or
Mhm.
something like that. A woman in her 40s looks at a woman in her 50s like, oh my God, she's so old.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes, but
Imagine
tick
that,
tock
right?
goes the clock,
Yes.
baby. A woman at 30 see a woman at 50. Oh, she's so old. But my mother-in-law used to say, keep going to bed, honey, and keep getting up. And so we all will experience it sooner or later. So it's
Yes.
better to be armed with this information early on. And so I'm blessed to be able to have a platform by which I can share this kind of information. And whether it's in a church or in a conference or a town hall, what have you, I'm very open about sharing this. And so I'm really grateful that Sandra approached me about talking about the subject, because absolutely I will let women know. I had like 5 fans, and I don't have them around me anymore. I think I'm giving them away, little mini fans you buy them on Amazon. For the electric fan, you got plugging in at night. I would have 2 fans, ceiling fan at night, fan on me right here. And then when I got too
Yes.
cold after I got wet, I turned the heater, a little portable heater on. It was just crazy. My husband called me a polar bear. You're freezing me all night. But that was because I was hot. And until I got
Yes.
someone to help me manage that, life was miserable. But now it's so much better. And I'm so grateful. So thank you as well, Delana, for sharing this kind of information and using your platform by which to
Yes.
spread the news so that women can be empowered even more so.
Absolutely. And again, it's one of those things where it's like I need to see someone that looks like me that's going through this as well. So it's one thing in the mindset to think that you're going through this alone, but to actually see someone that looks like you or that has a story
Uh-huh.
similar to yours, it allows you to even be more vulnerable and transparent about what it is that you're experiencing and going through. And to me, I think it's like you said, we've said this probably 50 times just in this show alone. It's very empowering to have the knowledge so that we can make these these decisions for ourselves. And our journeys are going to be very individualized, right? So my journey is my journey, and my story is going to be a little different, maybe similar to yours, right? And maybe some things that you experience that I may be able to glean, a thing or two from what it is that you've gone through. To ease my experience or to magnify my experience so that I can think of it as the feminine evolution and go through it sexy rather than thinking that oh my God, it's nothing but hot flashes and fog and fluffy and feeling all like I'm gaining weight and my like it's literally everything all at once sometimes, and you're just
Yes.
like, look, let me hurry up and get through this. Instead, I want you to feel like this is an experience that we should embrace, and that this is absolutely, hot flashes won't last forever, and things of that nature, because it's, don't let that hot flash define this period in your life. Yes,
Right.
they're a pain in the butt. Yes, they can be inconvenient. Yes, it can be sometimes daunting. It can sort of shift your plans.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it can sort of make someplace that you're supposed to go enjoyable. Instead, you're in there stripping in the middle and all of that, and you only remember that
Mhm.
one little piece of it. But truly, it is not defining that whole period, because after 50 and after you've gone through menopause, you become postmenopausal. So that's the remainder of your days. So you want that to be
Yes.
enjoyable.
Yes. Well, I
Oh
want to
yeah.
say before I forget, because
Sure.
sometimes that happens with me.
Right. See, that's part of it too, right? Come on, Sandra, hurry up. Say what you gotta say because you're gonna forget.
But I want to say thank you to you, because by you holding your doctor accountable, it probably
Mhm.
changed that for a lot of women that came after you, the
Yeah.
doctor was able to look at them from a different point of view as before. Before
Mhm.
you said maybe not thinking about it before.
Right.
And yeah, so look at the difference that you made. And then I just want to say thank you to Dr. Neal, because your transparency, you inspire so many of us. And so I am, one of your number one fans. But there are so many of us that just enjoy you being transparent about your journey and whatever it is that you can do to inspire us and to motivate and empower us. So I just appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
See, just
Thank
right
you.
there, that whole empowerment circle, us
Yeah,
sharing.
it sure
Right.
is. It's a
Yeah.
circle.
So I want to quickly go over
When you
for
were talking, Delana,
uh-huh.
I was just thinking when you were
Okay.
talking and talking about coming through the menopause
Mhm.
era and all the symptoms that we're really kind of fighting through. There, I was thinking in social sciences, there's the thought of vicarious living, right? And so
Oh,
someone will see someone who has overcome something, and they think, and believe if you can overcome it, then I can too. And that's so
Mhm.
empowering in a
mhm.
lot of ways. I can't go away from the word, but it's inspiring in a lot of ways because people can see that women have overcome this, women have come through
Right.
it, and
Mhm.
they aren't just at a loss for life,
Right.
or they're
Right.
not less
Mhm.
feminine or anything like that. The church has it in the same way, the same statement: if God brought you through it, he can bring me through it
Mhm.
too.
Bring
And
you
so it
through it.
doesn't matter how you what aspect you see it, but I think the example that we provide today is
Mhm.
very helpful and beneficial for any
Yes.
woman that may be struggling,
Yes.
Absolutely.
or wondering what's going on, because we're open enough to share and let
Yes.
people know that yes, it
Yes.
was miserable, or yes, I've
Mhm.
been miserable, but yes,
Mhm.
I also found some solution or some relief, and now I'm able to come through this, and I want to help somebody else. Look at there, somebody got HBCU easy money.
Yep.
If you can
Say, if
overcome
you
it, I
can
can too.
overcome it,
Exactly.
then I can too. Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly. And that's what it comes out to, is that when we help others, because you said the word doula earlier about having
Mhm.
maybe menopausal doulas.
Mhm.
And so we need to train more
Mhm.
women with
Yes.
this
Mhm.
information so that they can be community liaisons, so they can be advocates, so they can inspire somebody else with this type of information. I think it's really a distinct calling when we take our responsibilities of what we've experienced and what we've overcome as
Mhm.
an important thing and part of our platform. When we embrace that and integrate that
Mhm.
into our lives, into our messaging, no matter what we do. If you're a hairstylist and you're sitting there, your chair is your
Right.
pulpit, is what I
Mhm.
say. Your salon is your platform. I mean, every
Yeah.
woman that comes through there, if you've been through it, you need to be telling them how to overcome it.
Yeah.
If you're a doctor, you're held accountable for helping somebody else get the right information. So arm yourself with that information. So all of us that have been through it, no one should ever be ashamed. If there's
Right.
any shame in it,
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
shame that you don't tell somebody and help somebody else overcome it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the
true.
beauty of having women like you two share the journey, because
Mhm.
it's easy for women to look at other women and they look at them and they think, oh, nobody's going through this. Look at her.
Mhm.
She looks so gorgeous. She doesn't experience any of this. Look at her.
Right.
Her life just looks so, so glamorous. So to have women who have no shame in empowering women
Mhm.
and encouraging women through their own testimonies and through their own experiences, I think it's just it's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%,
Yeah.
which is why I say I come on here. I'm very transparent because you're right. Sometimes women will look at you and see you and think there's no way, God bless you, that you've
Thank
gone through
you.
this, or, menopause can't be that, miserable experience at some point for you, or,
Yes.
whatever the case may be, because it's oftentimes what we see, right? So it's what we see
Mhm.
with the naked eye and what we kind of assume. So I let them know, absolutely. There are my, times where it does become too much. I'm standing up in front of a audience of like 200 people, my palm, my pits are sweating, I'm feeling like this, I'm having a whole private moment, you know and you're still trying to get still get your message across and talk and do what it is you need to do to empower people. But then I'm also very transparent about it too. And I'll even say that I'll say, as I sit up here and sweat, you talk about that and maybe filter that in through your speech and through your talk to, again, let them know I had to overcome that to still stand up here and deliver this. Right. So it's, again, letting them know this is my journey. This is my, transparency. However, I got 2 fans in my pocketbook. I got one in the car. I got one, so you let them know.
Absolutely.
I could be halfway where I need to be. And if one of those fans are dead and don't work, I'm coming back home to get another fan, get a charger, get something to make it happen. We're gonna do what we need to do. But I want to very quickly go through for, I believe it was Evelyn Terry who asked if we could go over the symptoms of menopause. First, let me say, Evelyn, there are 34 plus symptoms really of menopause. What I usually advise clients to do and women to do is, when you notice that there's a change or something that you're experiencing, make sure that you begin to track your triggers or track your symptoms, track your experiences, because there are 34, and it starts from the top of your head to the soles of your feet for what you can experience. So it can be, hair thinning, brain fog, which also can be forgetfulness. Obviously, the hot flashes, or what we call the vasomotor, or now you're seeing commercials talk about them, the VMS symptomology, where you begin to feel warm inside. So that can either be hot flashes or night sweats or both. You also can have changes in your vision, allergies, things that you weren't normally allergic to, that now suddenly you have a sensitivity or an allergy to them, possible incontinence. Your breasts are more sensitive. Your changes in your cycle. You may go 2 months, not have a cycle, have a cycle. Your cycles may go longer. They may be shorter. So it's just really paying attention to those things that are connected to your reproductive health will help you to identify whether or not you're perimenopausal. So again, it will be individualized and different, but anything that you realize that was not the same 1 month prior, just begin to track those things. Bone changes. So that's your joints. Usually it's your knees. Some people complain, the elbows, changes in body odor. I'm just trying to think of all the ones as I'm going down. So again, don't let this kind of overwhelm you, but just begin to take notice and know that if you are experiencing these things, that you are not going crazy, that you're not alone, and begin to, again, write them down and track them, so that when you do go see your healthcare provider, you're not trying to remember, because you heard me say brain fog was one of the symptoms, right? So you want to be able to articulate that during your appointment. You can just simply bring out that thing and say, okay, I experienced this, 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 and this. And you can kind of give them a snapshot or an idea of what it is that you're experiencing. And so that the two of you can have that dialogue back and forth about what it potentially may be and how to develop a plan around that.
I know for myself, it was just being in tune with my body. So, and I would notice, okay, if I got hot, now what made me get hot? And I noticed that maybe I put a cap on my head, and the fitting from the cap caused me to be hot, or it caused me to be sweaty. So I think really being in tune with your body, and then just pinpointing what just happened when I felt this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so
that's why it's important, like I said, to track your symptoms and then your triggers. So for me, it happened because I would say, okay, what was I doing? What did I eat right before that? Okay, did I have, something salty, or did I have something sweet?
Sugars usually do it for me too.
So it's a matter of you will start to be in tune, because you're going to want to know yourself, what caused me to do that? Why? So that you can begin to, shift your behavior around that to help minimize and manage those symptoms.
Yes.
But you said a critical thing was writing it down. Writing it down and being able to really kind of have that record.
Yes.
Right. To go back so you can remember what was what. I think for me, in my case, I was really, I was dealing with thyroid issues and hormone issues at the same time. And so they're very similar. And I still don't know which was happening at which time, because it could have been both. But, but being able to articulate that to my doctor, like, okay, this is happening at this time. And this is, it was a trigger, or this went on for a year. This went on for 3 years.
Almost.
So being able to have that history, that medical history is so important, so that when you're at the right doctor, and if your doctor is, and I can't emphasize this enough, but if your doctor is dismissive of that information, then find yourself another doctor.
Find
because
another
you need
doctor.
to have a doctor that, yes, you need to have a medical professional that is interested in serving you, that is interested in hearing what symptoms you have and what can this be. So if they do a thyroid test, don't let them just check your stimulating hormone. They should do free levels of thyroid, do T3, T4, and check everything, right? So find out what tests. You can always go to questdiagnostics.com, whatever, and see what tests you should have done for your hormones, what tests you should have done for your thyroid. All of these, there's some resources that are out there that we can find what we should be asking the question for. And don't be afraid to ask for that test if they don't offer it. If they're not saying, oh, I'm going to do some blood work, say, hey, why don't you run the blood work for me? Because I really would like to know more of what's happening in my body. Your body, you're the advocate.
That's right. Yep. That's where the advocacy comes in. Yes,
and that's why we have to get more knowledgeable, because just like you ladies are talking about the different tests and the different things that are available or that you should ask for. I mean, a lot of us, just speaking for myself, I'm not familiar with all those tests. So you have to get more knowledge about it so that you're able to recommend to the doctor when the doctor doesn't say that or doesn't suggest that, because that is very helpful in just trying to get more knowledge about what things are available for yourself.
Yeah, so true. They're back to that word empowerment and advocacy. Empowerment. All right. So I want to, at this time, take the last few moments to talk with both of you about an event you have coming up this weekend. So tell us what the event is. I'm going to put up the link on the screen so that you all will see it. Hopefully you can go and register, because I know there is limited space with a maximum information that's being given. So Sandra, I'll start with you. Mia, I'll wrap up with you about this event. So Sandra, tell us, as the community liaison, what made you do this event and what can ladies expect for attending this event?
Well, like I said, I was going through my own personal journey, and I found myself having a lot of conversation around menopause. And I felt like it was important that I use my platform to be as transparent as I can, or could be, to inspire other women, or to let them know that they're not the only ones that are going through the menopause change. And so I called Dr. Mia, and she was on board, and I was so excited. And we are so excited that we're going to be hosting the event together. So we're going to be doing some chatting, some shopping, some networking, you name it. It's going to be a bunch of fun. And not only that, but we're going to have an expert panel of doctors there that will be giving information and helping us get more knowledgeable about our bodies.
Great. Amen. Thank you so much for doing this, honestly, hosting that event. So again, the link is there. It is also in the chat. I'm going to make sure that it's in the chat. And Dr. Mia, tell us what you want the ladies to experience from Saturday's event.
Well, I hope that the ladies will leave there armed with information that will help them to live their life in a better way. So no matter if they're going through it, or if they have been through it, or if they have daughters, nieces, sisters, neighbors, whoever, coworkers that they want to share this information with, I want the women to be able to leave with some resources and some opportunities to know that, in our city, because it's a local, I guess most women will be local, but it'll be a local event. But there's some great resources here and some doctors who will advocate for their hormonal health as well. And so we want them to learn, and I know we didn't touch on it as much, but the old thought around hormone replacement therapy has changed because the way that we treat it is different. And so I know, like, if I think back to the 80s and I hear that word hormone replacement, I'll be like, oh, and I have women that says to me, they'll say, oh no, it causes cancer. And no, the new treatments, the new therapies, there are different types of hormones that we're treating with these days, and it's not the same.
Right.
So they'll have to come and hear that from a medical professional, so they'll know what the difference is.
Right. As we say, it's not your grandmama's hormone replacement therapy, okay? It's a little different. We even have bioidentical hormone replacement therapies, a lot safer, and we're not a lot more knowledgeable about hormone replacement therapy and the risk. And
we also meant to mention that the event is free. So all they have to do is RSVP.
Listen, come on, y'all. Them tickets should be going like this. You should have started with that, Sandra. Listen, come on now. Because get in free so you can go shop. And you heard her say retail therapy, right? So we want y'all to come in free so that you can save your money to go shopping. So part of the retail therapy. But no, in all seriousness, thank you both for doing tonight's show with me, for being guests. Thank you for hosting the event on Saturday as well. Because I think it's very much needed. Again, anytime you're able to be in a room with women to be transparent and vulnerable, to learn, you're going to have other women there, other professionals there as well in the healthcare field that will be able to share additional information outside of what we've shared with the viewers today. But I really am thankful for both of you. I am wishing you nothing but a successful event. I'll be in Texas soon. I'm coming Sugarland too, so we can do something.
Sounds good.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we have to get you to one of our events as well and share the information that you are giving. So please know that it's great information. You're quite an empowerment speaker and, helping women all along. So thank you. So we'll definitely be sharing your information as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate you both. Yes. Thank you so much. All right, guys, make sure that you are looking for the tickets there. I'm also going to repost this and put the link for the tickets. And as Sandra said, she forgot to mention it's free. So, grab your tickets, but limited space, free, but with limited space and availability. And again, it will be a continuation of the conversation that we're having tonight. This was sort of a springboard into, again, anytime that you can sit and have this very transparent, very vulnerable, yet empowering conversation about menopause. So once again, I thank you all for joining me on the Menopause Mixer. Again, we meet every second Monday at 7 p.m. Each month, we have a different topic. Hopefully you all are members of the Black Women in Menopause support group, where we share, uplift, and empower one another in that group on Facebook. So again, we thank you all, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
See you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys can stay on for a second if you want.